Discussing the nuts and bolts of development has never gelled well with evolutionary biology until pretty recently. If we go back to the end of the 19th century, we can take a look at Alfred Russel Wallace. And to Wallace, it was all about the environment and all about the way developed organisms, functioning organisms with their bodies and behaviors interacted with each other in that environment. And whatever creatures were using to inherit traits and however that translated into the formation of those traits, that was just black boxed. Adaptation was an environmental phenomenon, and that's what mattered to Wallace and to the developing discipline of ecology. You can flip that around into the early 20th century and the emphasis on chromosomes, and then later the emphasis in DNA. And in those circumstances, it's actually still the same attitude, because now we're talking about the diversity of the genetic instructions and then how those have been altered in their frequencies through selection. But again, the gene's job is simply to make the traits. The idea that there is a gene and that gene is for a trait, that is really just a flip around of the same thing that Wallace was saying. Again, in either of those models, there's no place for development to have a voice. It just does its job. Well, let's again back up. Let's back up further to the mid-1800s. And we're looking now at the work of the German embryologist Karl Ernst von Baer. And here we're looking directly at the nuts and bolts of development, the tissue layers, the formation of ectoderm and endoderm and mesoderm, and we're talking about the subdivisions of those into different organ systems, and it explains why von Baer was never very much in agreement with Darwinian thought, because he was looking at evident directional phenomena. The thing that goes from a formless mass into a working organism, and something intrinsic in there is making this happen and had properties of its own. And it wasn't really until barely beginning in the 1970s, moving into the 1980s, and then blossoming in the 1990s, the emphasis on developmental phenomena as traits of their own. And it came to be called Devo in the discipline, and is really the source of remarkable new insights throughout it.